Greetings, programs! Welcome to Highway to the Grid 5. I hope you are all excited for the absolute best in 1980s entertainment. That's right, it's Tron Arcade! And we're playing the randomizer tonight. We are going to be challenging that I.O. tower. We are going to be racing light cycles. We're going to be battling tanks, dueling discs, everything that you expect here at Flynn's Arcade. And at the end of the night, we're going to be taking on the MCP. Telegram Bad Karma, are you excited?
I'm a user. I'm a user. I'm excited. If you're a user, you are having all the power. Good. Well, I really think it's a good night for light cycles. And Bad Karma, you want to talk a little bit about the strategy of a good light cycle fight?
Always turn to the left. Always.
Well, that worked for NASCAR. It works really well here.
Wait. I'm being told that Disney actually cares about Tron currently, so I think I have to stop doing this joke.
Now, Scala, if Disney cared about Tron, they'd finish constructing the Tron ride by now.
If they cared about Tron, they would have given us Tron 3. But whatever, we get a visual novel instead. Hope that it's going to be better than Uprising. Anyway, I'm going to take it back over to Final Fantasy IV. You all have yourselves a lovely evening.
Thank you, Scala Kitty.
I suppose I should say good evening out there, free enterprise fans, race fans, vintage video game fans of all kinds. My name is Tall Grant, and we're here to do a wonderful race between the great CommanderLeonhart and Slippery. With me on the team today, we have Scala Kitty, who is going to be running our broadcast, making everything beautiful, our awesome button pusher, the fried potato, and joining me on the mic is Bad Karma.
Tall Grant, thank you very much for that intro. Thank you, Scala Kitty, as well, for making us all really wish that there was a Tron randomizer out there. But we are here in a Blue Moon Waning seed. The winner moves on to face Big Dunk, I believe. And unfortunately, the person who comes in second will be ending their Highway to the Zemus 5 journey. And we've got a Porum start.
I am up very highly on Team Porum. Love her as a white mage. It's a great start, and it solves one of the critical problems. Just to do a quick view of the bosses, we should be starting momentarily, but we have our two traditionals, the Fabul Gauntlet and Golbez. They'll be joined by Wyvern, CPU, Bahamut, the Magus Sisters, the Calbrain Nadals, and the Baron Guards. We should be starting the race momentarily, but I would say this is an interesting mix of bosses, particularly with those free guards in there, but there's a couple of really scary ones in here, and the awful time-consuming CPU if it's in the wrong spot.
Yeah, not necessarily scary unless it's a CPU at Elements and you've got a mage party, then you should be scared. But we do have two bosses that are weak to mage weapons with the Magus Sisters and the Guards, and we'll see who is paired with this Porum here momentarily as we are underway.
Well, and Porum in her orange tunic comes out to walk and is joined by Rydia. We have the little girl start.
And a pass. Not helpful now. Very helpful later.
And the pass coming from some form of Mylon, which is interesting information and shouldn't really be too much of a scary thing if we get to go to Baron Castle. But we'll step aboard the airship. We are glad all of you are aboard with us tonight. Let's have a great seat, and good luck to our runners.
And welcome to Free Enterprise for the race that you just came from. Please do not spoil that. We are getting underway here. We've got a Porum Iridia start. And this is going to be interesting. This is not a very powerful group right now.
No, this is pretty low hit points, and it's kind of scary. It looks to me like CommanderLeonhart wants to opt his way up to Troy and take a look and see what Bedward's going to have for us, while we have Slippery making his way up to the Watery Pass to do that first of the character checks. And this is actually a really interesting point of divergence, because I see a lot of runners have to make decisions between whether it's more important to see your characters first or to get started with that early looting and a key item looking for that hook to get you started on your underground journey.
Yeah, and that is a Luca key, and there's a Sid as well. So somebody who can do some damage early game, we find Sid, even a Silver Hammer can help take out that overworld. But the Luca key is interesting because we do have the Warp Glitch on.
Well, and unlike some seeds I've seen, we have a warp caster, so it's one of the big advantages of Blue Moon over Red Moon is that you get to cast warp. There are interesting options and choices for you there. So if you can get set up, there is a defense. Wow, great cane kit, defense sword, and dragoon armor, and I think I saw one other nice item in that treasury or the public treasury at Troya.
Yeah, and on Slippery's side too, to go along with the public treasury, there was a poison axe for that Sid just sitting there. So definitely some early power early on for our runners.
Well, and Slippery liked the loot and watery pass so much, he's going to go loot the backside and see what else can be found back there. Sometimes this can be a really high payoff spot. In a lot of the basic running setups, watery pass isn't visited as well, so the treasure here is looted just a little bit higher than we did in some of these early places. That elven bow may also be a nice pickup for Sid or some other character who can do archery.
Yeah, find a heroine robe, and Rydia or Porum can wield that elven bow against Magus Sisters. We find them early on, or those Baron guards. That'll be a nice pickup.
And the Troya shop has all your camping needs, cabins and tents, and also life potions if that's not good enough. That is quite the solid item shop and should be getting Commander Leonhart feeling pretty good.
Yep, so we'll see where he decides to go, if he's going to go round out his party, picking up and falling behind. And Slippery is checking the Damsian basement, looking for more loot. Like I said, this is not a strong party. Never mind.
That Stardust Rod covers up a lot of flaws, and Rydia can equip and use it. That can get you through a lot of early world fights. And the Black Belt armor is fantastic pickup. The Karate shirt will do just fine in a pinch. There's a lot of good things to be found there. So let's find our fourth character of the seed. While Commander picks up his Sid from Watery Pass, we're going to see who the fourth character is on Slippery's side.
Tella, very nice, especially if we find an early darkness. That would be really good for all these mages we see.
Well, it's also making it's going to push a little bit harder toward Ordeals, just because we know that there's a lot of power for Tella to be gained by doing that, even if we don't happen to find a Cecil in one of our remaining spots.
Yep, and we'll be seeing who those other slots are here shortly, I'm sure. Again, this is probably not the four-man group you'd want to be going to whack bosses with quite yet.
I mean, the hit point pool on Sid is going to be very helpful for getting through that, but you're right, there's not a lot of physical health and durability, and some of the bosses with this group could be nasty. Commander's electing to go pretty deep into Watery Pass, which I believe he's doing because he found an exit in that Troya treasury. Otherwise, it would be a long walk back out.
Absolutely, and this is really good. A lot of this early mid loot in the middle of the cave, Slippery obviously did not get. So if Commander spikes something really nice here, that's going to give Commander a good power advantage over Slippery as we go through the seed.
Well, and Slippery it's interesting seeing the catch up with Slippery because he is elected to go do the public treasury as well. So it's very similar loot collection between the two of them.
Yep, and not going to have to worry about that exit item because Slippery's already got the Tella from Damsian, so just going to save that item for later.
Yeah. And Commander is going to make it all the way to the backside of Watery Pass.
Yep, and we'll be seeing that exit get used real quickly, and not going to feel too bad about it either because once...
that's a curse ring for sale in the Troya armor shop.
Yeah, I don't know. Did Commander see that when he spotted it?
I don't believe he did. I don't remember seeing him go in there.
Well, hopefully he revisits that later. Maybe when because he didn't really have any money at the time.
He did. He had decent enough gear to sell for it, but frankly, that Dragoon armor is worth holding on to. Even you have Sid who can wear it, and there's several others like Kane or Cecil who would very much benefit for it. We have our first boss check outside the starting boss, and at the waterfall we have a sparkle. Will it be? It's pale dim.
And we will never visit that waterfall ever again.
I think Slippery might take a look at it, but yeah, there's not a whole lot else to see there. Commander is opting to go for to not take a loot deficit. He should find that Stardust Rod down here, which is going to be a huge pickup for him. Vampire's also on Slippery's side in a pinch against a rough boss on top of Ordeals. Those can bail you out pretty well.
Not just a rough boss in Ordeals, but maybe like, that Baron Inn, that first fight in Baron Inn, that's a good quick one-shot there if you don't want to trust like Sid to, swing the Poison Axe and miss a few hits.
Yeah, until you run across something big and nasty and undead, and then it's not quite so useful. Alrighty, well, I think we are about to see something new and interesting on Slippery's side. He and Commander have not taken the same route, but have ultimately checked the same thing. Slippery electing to fly over to Silvara and take a look in the shops there.
Yeah, also a little bit more loot. It's a little bit weighted less even on T Wildish, but still going to be some money for Slippery, depending on what he's looking for. Still looking for silk webs and things like that.
Well, my guess is that not-so-great bow and the karate shirt he found were not quite on the list of what he was after. But it looks like Slippery's planning to use that Rydia. I just see the self-summon being learned instead of being sold for money.
Yeah, and that hurts the pocketbook just a little bit because Commander found his self-summon for free in the middle of the Watery Pass.
Well, let's see. Yeah. Well, Commander wants to get his free summon, and it looks like it's an Odin summon from the front side. The way Free Enterprises program, for those who haven't seen it, Rydia normally learns Fire 1 as she goes into Mount Hobbs, but for the randomizer, we randomize a summon that she picks up at that point instead. So Commander's going to check out that free summon and then go to the see who the boss is at the summit.
Yeah, this is really good routing, I feel, for Commander. Dark Imps just at the top can just exit right out of here. So is going to do so. Not worried about that fight, even though it would be some free XP, but wants to save the time. I don't blame him.
All right, and we have Slippery exiting his shopping. Will Slippery go to another boss, or are we going to do a little bit more front-end shopping on this seed? Commander electing to go to Mysidia. I suspect we're going to see at least the characters, if not some shopping. Oh, both runners to Mysidia.
And while we're here side by side, runners in sync and tow, there's a ninja.
Yep, there is Edge. I don't think we've seen any Edge weapons yet, though, which is interesting. And there is Kane. Well, interesting times, because the first question you usually ask yourself in this seed is, am I going to find the big, bad, overpowered Cecil? And we may be in a situation where we have almost everything else in our toolkit. It really depends on who that last character on Ordeals is going to be.
Absolutely, and that's really going to probably drive our runners in deciding which party member, both of them dropping Sid at this point. Kane can use that poison axe. We have found some long blades, it looks like, and at least a middle sword. So for CommanderLeonhart, so that is a pretty well geared Edge right now.
Yeah. I think with that, I think I had missed some of that loot, but Edge is also going to be decently armored with that black belt. That'll just be great for both giving him enough armor to deal with the early game and also to give him a little bit of extra attack power.
Yeah, and forgot about the defense sword in the Troy Treasury. This Kane is ready to go.
Yeah, that's a very good reason to have kept that Kane over the edge. I think Kane still is going to need a couple levels to really get going, but I think both players also held on to that Dragoon armor, which is going to sit really nicely on that Kane.
Yep, and also CommanderLeonhart showing us a Soma drop, so should he decide to do the right thing and give Kane some MP, then he'll be set up for it.
Yeah, you wouldn't think about just giving that MP to somebody like Tella where you could potentially tip him over into Medio territory, would you?
Kane loves MP. Knows exactly how to use it, especially 10.
All right, well, Commander is going to be our first to take us up the beautiful Mount Ordeals for its lovely triple boss check, which is heavily useful, while Slippery has elected to go to Antlion Cave at a little bit more vanilla game progression as far as boss encounter difficulty. Our last character is Yong, and for some reason, I suspect he may not be terribly popular with our runners.
Probably not. I would be a little tempted with this party, just with what we've seen. We've seen Poison Claws, we've seen a lot of Black Belt Geese, and they're for sale in Silvara. I'd be a little tempted, but our runners are still in this event, and I am not, so...
Well, it gets to that point where you look at the fact that you have an endgame weapon for Kane, and his ceiling, you know, he will be a lot more effective with it with fewer levels than it'll take to really get Yong online and, you know, busting heads.
Absolutely. We did find a heroine robe on Slippery's side, I believe. So
and a sorcerer robe there, which this mage heavy party is going to make good use of.
Yeah, so gear-wise, definitely a nice, even in distribution for the characters that we've got. I suspect that our runners are feeling pretty good about their looting right about now.
Well, and I got to compliment Slippery for equipping that Aegis shield. That is the king of shields and one of the king of items out there.
Absolutely.
And I'm
it's better
not
than
at all
Crystal Sword.
Well, and I'm not at all biased about that over things like Spear or Artie Bow.
That feels like there's some bias there.
No, completely unbiased, no problem.
We can both agree that the best rod in the game is not Rod or Stardust, it is Lilith Rod.
I would have to stick with you there. Well, a little Spider-Man pointing meme going on. We have Karate Man hanging out in the antlion cave. Of course, Slippery hasn't seen the Yong, so it'll be a second time for when he goes up Ordeals.
That point can happen at any time. It does not have to happen in real life. Real time. Real life.
And our first boss on Ordeals is going to be Bahamut, our first required boss of the night.
Definitely not going to be missing this, especially with the Tella in the party. So, a spoon on Slippery's side. That is going to be a nice dart later, since we do not have an Edward.
Well, and that could also be a really nice get out of jail free card if we've got something nasty sitting down the hook route.
Absolutely. That's, that evil wall at King Queen that has plagued a number of runners over the years. Meet thy spoon.
All right, short work of the Bahamut for Commander Leonhart. Slippery electing to go to Fabul and see what is going on in the defense of the castle.
Doing some standard routing, Slippery's doing, just going through the progression, knocking out these lower level bosses. These are going to be spots that Commander Leonhart is going to hit at some point. So this will be just some crisscross. There's the Dark Knight Cecil doing a little French vanilla action.
It is, but with Edge, this fight shouldn't be too much of a problem. I mean, he's not going to hit that hard, and Edge will definitely get through this. And the real question, I think, is Commander going to use his life potion and pull somebody up at the end of the fight to get some experience, probably on that Porum, to see if we can get her up into Blink or Berserk.
Yeah. Justice is away. Meanwhile, we've got elements.
This is away, but Commander, I think, is going to just sit through it and make sure his inventory is a little bit more optimally laid out. Well, that Sylph is getting put to work, so it's nice to have learned it and getting it to use to make sure that the waves don't take the party out, and that was quite the hit. That Sork Robe and Stardust combo on Rydia is doing wonders for her magic power.
This is why we let Rydia do things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the really terrifying thing is if you were to hand her something like a Bahamut Orb and see watch her really crack some magic open.
There's a pan. That is interesting. The pan being there at the Fabul defense. We've been seeing a lot of runners through this event fading Fabul, knowing that they're going to get underground access very quickly in the seed. So they'll typically wait to at least get Sheila 1 set up before taking that underground.
Ooh, and the Earth Crystal for Commander Leonhart. This party is somewhat well equipped, but there's definitely room for improvement. So you wonder if that treasury is going to get opened up fairly soon. And a Baigan up here. Not necessarily the fight you want without a little better area of effect damage, but this is thankfully a low enough hit point spot that it shouldn't be much of a problem.
Oh yeah, and Heroine Robe Porum says, hey, I got this. Wax for 400 damage. So Kane will wrap this up.
Mm-hmm. Yep, lovely fight by Commander Leonhart there, very solid, and his Tella is now fully online. Ether 2s, Ether 2s are for sale in Fabul. That's one of the components we need if we want to do a D-Machine grind or similar.
Yeah, always great to find those in the overworld. You don't want them to be gated in an underground shop. While expensive, they are worth it, especially if you're thinking D-Machine grind.
Well, I'll point out the obvious thing. We have checked 3 key item locations, and we've received, 4 if you count Bedward, received all kinds of interesting stuff. We don't have the hook yet.
We have a path to the hook. We still have the Baronin. That's 2 bosses. Our runners are probably going to be running there here really quickly.
And we still have that Zot Tower.
That's right. So sitting real pretty, I think, on the key items. Scalikitty, our restreamer tonight, definitely wanted our runners to find key items in key item locations.
Well, and that Earth Crystal starts kind of putting a little bit of timer in your head, because it's interesting to have those extra boss checks, the treasury, and some extra work to do before you try to do the hook route. On the other hand, there's that little clock in your head ticking saying, is my opponent going to take this time, or is he already on the hook route? And if there's something easy, did he get through in front of me?
Yeah, and also interesting thing to note too is Commander Leonhart has faded Antlion. There is some guards and a full moon for that edge to be back row glitched. All this loot coming up Commander right now.
Yep. Well, some French vanilla guards here. That's going to be, well, we don't know. That could be guards, that could be officer, but I think that's the guards. It looks like guards to me.
That's the vanilla spot for the guards.
Yep, and it looks like them. So,
This will be quick. Blink and you miss it. Oh, 1500 from that Elven Bow. Heroin Rogue Porum.
And of course, back row Edge is having a good time. All right, Slippery making his way up Ordeals, going to fight through. I'm not seeing a whole lot of problem with these bosses, particularly because of the power that Rydia rather is wielding at the moment.
Yeah, and Slippery did do the loot as well. Evil Wall is the second boss. This is, it's punchy, and Evil Wall cheats. So Commander's going to elect to do a little bit of darting to help speed this up. I don't blame him.
Well, that Slumber is a great use for that Slumber Sword, because as far as swords go that somebody like Kane could equip, that's pretty bottom tier item, but it darts for an awful lot of damage, especially in this early game situation.
Yeah, good heads up play to, one, clean out the inventory, two, do some damage, big chunk damage, to make this Evil Wall fight go a little bit faster.
Well, doing all that looting is kind of not helpful if you don't actually put what you collect to use in some way, shape, or form. If it just sits in your inventory, it's not really a great play to have picked it in the first place.
I save it for a rainy day, and there are lots of rainy days in Free Enterprise. I take the loot with me to the next seed. It just never works out.
Well, Commander has his hook and has his ability to potentially start peeking on that hook route, but the question is how many checks does he want to keep doing on the overworld before he heads out to do that?
I think Mist Cave, definitely for sure. And honestly, with this party, with what we've got, like you said, that treasury would be burning a hole in my pocket right now.
Well, the thing I think that all of us that are watching on the stream here are kind of holding our breath about is there's that Pan and Fabul, and taking that to the Underworld is a big time save. It's a real interesting question if he's going to choose to fade it or not. You know, the odd... Ooh, I don't think I've seen... this is the first time we've seen the Baron shop with its beautiful silk webs.
Silk webs, couple extra exits so you don't have to raise the Tella later. That's a nice shop. Oh, gave Tella the Soma drop like a good runner would do.
Well, we can't all follow the memes. All right, Slippery about to finish up. He actually did not have too much trouble pulling most of his party through the fight with Dark Knight Cecil, and is going to go get his Earth Crystal from the mirror room on top of Mount Ordeals. Meanwhile, we'll have a check of the boss in Mist Cave.
Good, solid check here. Incoming Leviathan, and not required Noodle. But
and yeah, Commander elects that he's going to take it. Doesn't have a whole lot of hit points, and it'll just die quickly.
This is I want to check the loot. This is going to be a cheeky loot check. Maybe banking on Slippery not coming through and checking this loot, going to see the Leviathan and leave. So this is interesting if Commander can spike something.
That Moonveil is really handy against somebody who punches hard.
That is going to be big, I think, later on. I can feel it right now.
That Silent Staff is not a bad pickup for your White Mage either.
Yeah, but that Moonveil, I can feel it now. Something rude and required at that Leviathan spot or Bahamut spot. That's where that Moonveil is going to come in real nice.
Well, I may speculate. If Commander's interested in looting there, I bet you we're going to see him take a look inside the treasury in the near future.
Yep, and now we are getting the Antlion dive from Commander. Going to be in and out. I believe this was a karate fight. Going to be rewarded with the spoon.
Yep, he heads down to collect his cutlery.
Slippery, meanwhile, has the Earth Crystal in hand, fully powered Tella. We'll see if he decides to hit the Baron in, or will he go elsewhere and check on that Earth Crystal.
Well, I don't think we've seen a whole lot of the boss spots checked by Slippery either, so those are still kind of hanging out there as fairly simple short checks for him. But no, he's electing to go to Baron in and get his hook.
Yep, these are two very quick fights for Slippery. Gonna get the hook, just like Commander did. Had no issue with them. So we'll see. Also interesting that... oh wait, this is the Antlion. Of course Commander's gonna do this fight.
Yeah, there's that key item behind it, and even though the spoon may not be useful right away for a dart, that count toward 10 key items also tends to be so critical as you progress through the sea.
All of the key items available, all the spots coming up Millhouse. Blood Pants are back in. They will be, especially once we finish the hook route.
Yes. All right, we have a completion of objectives, Antlion for Commander, and we have a second fight still to do on Slippery's side for Baron in. Commander is heading over to do Fabul, and he is going to grab the pan as well. So interesting. Based on pace here, Karma, I think that we're about to see the runners converge on the hook route fairly close to the same time, unless one of them chooses not to go up and do the Tower of Zod.
Yeah, and it really depends on what loot is going to be available in the treasury. I think it's going to really determine if you run up Zod or not.
Well, Commander believes in the power of magic. That's a stack of 10 ethers he just picked up here. I believe when Slippery came through, he didn't feel like purchasing any of it. And lightning arrows for Commander too, which I would have to say for the elemental arrows, that's the most useful of the three.
Yep, we still have not seen Odin. We have seen Leviathan. There's other bosses, Octomammoth, Kanatso half the time, every time.
Oh, and a little rough time with Evil Wall on Slippery's side. Just as you mentioned, quite the punchy spot, and I think it got the better of him.
Yeah, and Evil Wall cheats. That's the other thing. And there's agility shenanigans that I won't go into, and unfortunately, that is a rough one. I do believe that Slippery, if you're gonna take a wipe at any point in the seed, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, this is a fairly short back-to-back check and stuff. Meanwhile, Commander has found himself the elements fight and has worked through it without too much of an issue.
Yeah, I suspect Slippery will get the best of that Evil Wall here on the second round, as CommanderLeonhart has a decision.
Yeah, I think I'm sure he'll be happy to have found the pan and not have faded the check. It's very satisfying when you get to do Fabul and have the key item payout as something that is beneficial from not fading it.
Yeah, and both runners having it too is really nice.
Well, it's always obnoxious when you complete this and they say, "Congratulations, you saved our castle. Here, have a Gaia tunic."
Samurai arrows. That's the one that always gets me.
All right. Well, Commander is headed for Troya Castle. Will we be raiding the treasury?
We will see. Is he going right? Is he going left? Is he going straight?
All right, folks. Let's play the game.
Raid that treasury.
Great. That's treasury.
All right, let's see how good of things are found down here and, well, whether we can find the top-level Hanzo steel we've been looking for.
Zeus gauntlets.
I think this game really wants Kain to wear Dragoon armor. He is a Dragoon class after all.
This is the game is saying, listen, let Kain do some stuff other than just jump. Here, have some armor, have some Zeus gauntlets, have a defense sword, and you're good to go.
But interestingly, there's a lot of neat things in here. Ooh, that crystal sword would be so nice to have if we had Cecil. However, if you want money to spend, it's pretty fantastic.
We're about to see that Eblin gated shop here momentarily.
Well, I think Commander's going to take us up the tower first and show us our two bosses. But yeah, I think finances for Commander for the rest of Siege shouldn't be a problem, which is interesting because we're still looking for top-level Hanzo steel for Edge. I think that was one of the things that Commander would have been hoping to find as he came into the treasury, and of all the goodies that were in there, that was not among it.
Yeah, no Hanzo steel. Did find another longsword. That's nice if you want to shorten Edge's attack animation and not need that full moon to be equipped. That is an interesting pickup, and he is going to get those Zeus gauntlets.
Mm-hmm. And our good friend Eskrent pointing out that crystal sword is worth 15.8 sirens. Slippery decides fighting Leviathan is not worth his time and is moving onward to go take a look at the boss at Waterfall.
Yeah, Slippery skipped this boss earlier. We know that it's just a pale dim. So is going to drop a save out here so we can just pick up that hovercraft if we so choose and move on from there.
Yeah, or do we go up and see if there's some sort of goodies inside of Zot?
Well, so far we have not found the Flame Doggo, who is a best doggo and will always give you good things if you visit him.
That's true, but I think Commander's going to take some time to look for him.
I don't know. Maybe. He's already got a crystal sword. I mean, and usually every flame dog that you don't check is a crystal sword.
Yeah, but the ones that you check are usually just a white shirt.
That is beyond the point.
Okay, Slippery checks the final of the 3 boss slots at Mount Hobbs, comes up with nothing, and will be making his choice between going to do the hook route and going to Tower of Zot, and we are heading up to Zot again.
At least doing the treasury, which is a very nice treasury. It's a very fine treasury.
There's a lot of good things, and frankly, if you're doing Murder Porum with that Heroine bow, that Artemis bow they found in there is going to work wonders for making her go fast and do extra damage. Commander Leonhart reading the fabled Rex banner spot 1, and there is a blue robe up here, and it is the Alt Gauntlet.
The required blue robe. Ooh, this is not what you want Porum to be going first for.
This is, like I said, with the J items that these runners have found, this won't be a problem.
It could be a problem. It won't be, but it could be.
Mm-hmm.
That is a spot to find it, though.
There are much more unpleasant places to find this Alt Gauntlet. It means that we're not going to have to deal with any of the wonderful dragon summoning spots on the moon, or getting to fight a D machine inside the giant. I mean, this is all pretty manageable.
And this is some great inventory management for Commander Leonhart. Using all these J items now, getting these one-shot kills on this gauntlet. Big heads-up play there to make use of that.
Well, yeah, they lose their value as the game wears on. This is probably... There's a few other checks later that might be useful, but this is probably a prime time to be using a lot of it.
And here comes the Artemis bow.
Well, if you thought Porum was fast before, wait till you see her now. Meanwhile, we'll see if Slippery is probably going to be making up some time unless he chooses to also search for the Flame Dog chest, and we should be up at the top of Zot, not too far behind each other. We have a race going on here, folks.
Yeah, this is a very close race, and really, Slippery right now has plenty of time to make up against Commander. Is only a minute, maybe, or so behind, and it's all just do that one wipe. Anything can happen here, especially once we get underground.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. Both runners have elected a fairly similar strategy as far as what they wish to take in the overworld right now, and I think we're going to see a little bit more route divergence in the underworld. That's usually where that starts to happen, where the hard choices get made, but I think we're going to be going on fairly equal footing between the two of them, but it's kind of a nice feeling to have 3 bosses in your pocket going into the hook route, and potentially 4, depending on how lucky we are with the second boss up here on Zod. But it also puts a little bit of time pressure of, I'm finding a bunch of bosses now, I probably need to get that Darkness Crystal in hand, because this could go very, very quickly to the end of the seed.
Yeah, the only thing that would really feel bad about this, I think, right now is both of these bosses. I mean, granted, the gauntlet required. If the second boss just gives you a little bonk key item instead, that would feel a little bad, but I think the runners are really happy with the decision to come up here first before doing the hook route.
Well, honestly, just seeing that Alt Gauntlet here, not only the relief of finding the boss, but getting the Alt Gauntlet out of the way in some place where you know it's going to be a much more manageable fight.
Absolutely, but now we get to speculate what sort of nastiness is awaiting our runners on the hook route.
That we do. And then, frankly, we've seen a fairly good mix of the straightforward and simple bosses and the 1 or 2 of the nasties. We've got a lot of things. This hook route could be all over the board.
Yeah, and there's really not too many things like because we have that spoon that can be darted at the King Queen spot. That spot is really not the thing that's gonna really trouble our runners. It's gonna be something in that ruby spot. Ooh, there's a Lunar Sparkle in Dwarf Castle.
There is a Lunar Sparkle in Dwarf Castle. We happen to have a Lunar Sparkle boss we're looking for. And to tell you the truth, Wyvern in that second spot at Dwarf Castle can be a fairly obnoxious boss to deal with, just because you pull through that first fight and then have to be ready to do the second. And, the great preventative is to switch yourself over to Wyvern standard time, but what if you have something really slow in the first dwarf spot?
Oh, please give me Golbez in the first spot. I'm a terrible, terrible commentator cursing person.
Well, we'll see. Honestly, the blame goes to our wonderful restreamer who rolled the seeds, Scala Kitty. Speaking of which, if I may take a second to, let's see this boss, and then I'll shout out our broadcast team here today. We have Odin, the weak to lightning boss, who is probably going to get shredded by Porum by Commander Leonhart here shortly. I will shout out our restream team tonight is Scala Kitty, who rolled this seed, who is running the broadcast, making everything beautiful, and is, of course, the master of all the memes. We have Fried Potato, who's pushing buttons, tracking it, so everybody following along can see what's happening. Bad Karma is giving the wonderful commentary on the other end of things as well. And I think all three of these people are wonderful. And if you have the time, toss them a follow on Twitch. Their names are there. They're all wonderful people, and they put on great shows for you.
And don't forget to, count yourself as one of those wonderful people, Tall Grant. And there is one thing I do want to correct you on that, is that you did not use our tracker's full title, which is the biggest name in free enterprise, Fried Potato.
That's true. All right, well, Odin has been thunderstruck, so to speak, and Kane will be exiting out to give us our key item check, and which could be our last check before the hook route. There's a couple items that may tempt our runners otherwise, but odds are this will be it. Ooh.
Spear.
Well, interesting, because that we've been talking about D machines in Tela. If sirens appear, that Dragoon Spear is great for getting through several different sirenable monsters.
Dragoon Spear, great for that Wyvern fight. Whenever it decides to rear its ugly head. Also for the eggs, we're not going to use it on Pale Dim, as we've seen, but still, that's a side grade for Kane.
Well, and there's a couple of other dragon heavy bosses that will do a great job with. So Commander Leonhart's going to be first onto the hook route. I don't think Slippery is going to be too far behind him, and we will probably get our first peek at this Eblin shop and see just how much money Commander can raise with all of the wonderful treasure he picked up in Troya.
Yep, so let's see, what do we got here? What do we got? Oh, we're gonna sell things. The tension is so much.
Commander Leonhart was running up against the inventory boss when he was raiding the treasury, so it really is time just to clear out everything that he really doesn't think he needs.
That's so many things, it'll take so long. Show us the items.
You gotta wait for it, build the suspense. Commander Leonhart with 323k. Ooh, Hourglasses and Bacchus Wine are all good things. We take a stack of 10 for each.
Yeah, has more than enough money to just drop on that. That's a big find.
Slippery through the Odin fight, and going to be getting his Dragoon Spear shortly as well. Samurai arrows are nice for that Archer Porum.
Yeah, we've got the Murder Porum online fully. Artemis Bow, Samurai Arrows, Heroine Robe. This Porum is ready to go.
Well, that's okay. Bad Karma. I consider you my Artemis bro. So,
hey, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Commander Leonhart, I think, is still looking for that cursed ring. I don't believe he spotted the one that was in the shop at Troya. That could be a big difference down the line on this hook route, especially because I've not seen anybody being kept down as an anchor for Commander Leonhart. So depending on who the boss is here, things could be quite interesting. We're going to get our first peek here. If you're just learning the Free Enterprise Randomizer, there's a little cutscene here in the vanilla game. Ooh.
Oh no.
That Kanatso is not a friendly boss, and Commander did stop and buy those lightning arrows in the shop at Fabul.
Unfortunately, with the HP at this spot, that is not a Kanatso you want to leave into the weak to lightning phase.
No.
I do believe we have an Ice Claw, and I do believe we have Ice Arrows as well.
Yeah, but depending on this, and this is also a spot where having anchoring could be really important, because if that Kanatso is getting a lot of turns, this could be pounding you pretty hard.
Yeah, but Porum is well geared. Like, Porum is essentially wearing a cursed ring in the opposite direction. So she's double anybody but Edge right now in terms of agility. So we're getting the same effect. It's just going the opposite way.
Well, we're about to get our first peek. Meanwhile, Slippery is also stocking up on the boxes and the hourglasses. I think we're going to see some interesting hybrids. And we have a Demist here. Interesting choice.
Yeah, and that is punchy, but probably not going to be a roadblock. Commander's not even going to worry about chucking the spoon here either. It's just going to go ahead and, try and take this Demist down. There's the third hit. Will Kane come down before turning to Mist?
Nope, it doesn't. And that's kind of the interesting choice here about the dart, is that it trying to get past this mist phase. So of course the other interesting and misleading thing about Demist is, despite the fact you might think that the D in front of Demist stands for dragon, by the game's classifications, it is technically not a dragon, and it is not weak to the traditional dragon stuff you'd fight it with.
I mean, you look at CPU and you think robot, but it doesn't have the weakness either. You look at that ghost down in the sealed cave, and you definitely don't think giant or machine, but that's what that is.
Well, you know, the game has an interesting set of logic that was used to put it together.
Duct tape. It's called duct tape.
Well, who are we to question our developers from back in 1990 and
We
1991?
love them so much.
I'm eternally grateful for the many, many years of pleasure I've gotten out of playing this game.
And Commander Sir?
Mm-hmm. No problem. The fight wasn't terribly it wasn't scary or anything. It wasn't a scary fight. It was just a time-consuming fight, and that's in a lot of cases the problem with Demist, is that with those breaks it's easy to heal up and get through, but it can be a long fight. Commander appears to be ready to take this fight without taking a safety save.
Yeah. Probably not too worried about it. Again, it was just the Demist. Slippery is looking for the Mad Ogre chest. Wants to get a little bit more levels for this Kanatso.
It should be a pretty easy fight with the hourglass that you have in hand to take care of these Mad Ogres. The real question is Edge going to stop and grab a couple Bacchus wines on the way? Which probably not. Both winners are not hurting for money.
Or Berserk Casters. We do have 2 Berserk Casters and Bacchus Wines. I think this is more trying to get XP and loot before going into that Kanatso.
Well, that Kanatso is into the lightning phase really quickly. However, Commander Leonhart has that lightning item queued up quickly with Edge and is ready to hit him. And in fact, it looks like we're going to be relying on Porum and Rydia to do the fight, while the other 3 characters just make sure we stay out of the lightning. That said, Commander Leonhart has Edge in that center slot. This is going to be a fairly fast fight.
Yeah, very fast. Oh, and Rydia taking a hit there too is going to hurt. We've got Berserk Porum, Berserk Edge, so we're going to be relying on other characters to be getting that lightning down. But yeah, at some point you want to be in that lightning weakness for Porum to be able to do the full effect. Another Dragoon Spear.
Well, the game is telling our runners very, very solidly, you should be outfitting Kane right now.
Trust in Kane. He will only betray you twice.
Well, I tell you, Kane is truly the hero of this game. A lot of people say it's Cecil, but you have to realize that all the plot critical points, it's Kane who's carrying the story forward.
I would like to introduce you to our conspiracy of Kane and Cecil were in on it the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Playing the whole thing. That was a bad wave. Ooh.
Yes, that wave is going to create some problems for Commander. Especially because Edge is Zerked. This is an unfortunate outcome for him. And unfortunately, we're going to get to see both the fights again. And the runners have basically tightened up in position. They are both going to go into this hook route at the same time. Or the hook bosses, rather.
Yeah, they are seconds apart now going into this Demist fight. Very exciting hook route here to have our runners really converge.
Well, another interesting choice. I'm also curious if Commander's going to change his strategy on the Demist, since he was not able to do the fight in one cycle last time. If it's going to prompt him to go looking for darts in his inventory, or if we'll just be going through it again.
It does not look like it. Looks like just going to be going with the same strategy, try to get out as much damage as possible in these phases and get it down. Meanwhile, we'll see a Slippery gets Demist down in the one phase. Ooh, that 2200 Sylph. Very nice.
Yeah, that Sylph summon on Slippery's side has been doing quite a bit of work here.
And Slippery's going to have the level advantage going into this. You can see just, 100 extra HP for Kane, a little bit more HP for Rydia. That can make a difference, because that can also hit that Rydia for Commander Leonhart for like 420-ish.
Well, Commander's through the Demist, about to take advantage of the free heal, and we're going to have round 2 with Kanatso coming up.
See if there's going to be another. Yep, it looks like we're getting the save this time. Probably also maybe doing it to get the party ready and set as well.
Meanwhile, Slippery takes care of Demist and is going to go prepare for the first shot against Kanatso. Let's see if Slippery feels inclined to take a save.
Yes, definitely feeling the save is needed.
I'm not sure. We're stopping and re-equipping. I think we may. Yep, we are going to save. We were just making sure we equipped our ice gear on.
Yeah, saving before the fight. So if it does go sideways, then fully expect it.
Well, it's been 24 hours since I had my race last night, so I think I can safely say I was confident enough not to safety save on my hook route, and then I was punished for it when a nasty Ogopogo decided to punch me in the face. So sometimes saving is the better path of wisdom, and for those of you who have your save emotes, now is the time.
Yeah, if it's a Lunar Sparkle, you want to save, especially if you haven't seen the old note rope.
Mm-hmm.
Kanatso is another one. So this is also going to be really interesting watching this. We do have the agility anchoring on Slippery's side, but Slippery is opting for ice gear on that edge, on that cane, whereas CommanderLeonhart is set up for lightning damage on his side and not having the anchoring. So it'll be really interesting to see how these strategies pay off for the runners. We've got Tella going for Ice 3, a really nice big hit if we can get that landed in the ice weakness.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this spot, I believe, has somewhere north of 25,000 hit points is what you're looking for. So it's definitely a long fight. It's one of the things that makes the hook route a interesting challenge relative to more vanilla-ish routing where you have Magma Key and other options to get underground. It is actually a lot of work getting through this spot, and it can be quite scary coming on the hook route and seeing a boss who can make your life miserable like this Kanatso.
Yeah, I've had a Kanatso in the hook route on a tournament seed and not had an ideal setup for it either. And I did not know if I was even going to beat that fight when it went into its shell.
Meanwhile, big ice damage coming out on Slippery's side, just absolutely demolishing into this thing. And I don't know, a lot faster attacks going on the on Commander's side just due to the anchoring with Edge. But I'm really curious to see just how these two fights play out just because of the different strategies here.
Yep, we've got a slow cast coming out with Porum. That's always a good idea. Ooh, the big lit 3-2. Well-timed spells for Slippery and Commander both. Hitting those weaknesses at the right times with their Tella.
Well, but again, a sign of the power of the bosses. We saw that Slippery Tella with a Lightning 3 hitting for about 600 damage. I suspect that this Sylph is going to be more in the 2,000 range, and it's again just because of Rydia's better stats and better gear.
And no curse ring.
Mm-hmm. Well, that too. That curse ring is cramping Tella's style a little bit.
And that wave definitely in the range where you don't have to be as worried about those waves coming out now that we're, getting into the shell phase.
Slippery the first to get hiding in the shell, and a big lightning damage coming over on, wow, nice shot by Kane over on CommanderLeonhart's side, and we're in the shell. This is quite exciting. We're going to be going into the underground really, really close to each other. This is... both runners are, they're facing elimination from the tournament, and both runners are really putting it out here for us.
Yeah, this is a really well-run race by both. This is not an easy hook route. Kanatso in this spot is rude. Slippery is through first. Commander will not be far behind Slippery, though. So this is so tight, and these decisions underground are really going to drive our runners and the rest of the seed.
Well, and there's a whole lot of options here. I love the value coming up at Dwarf. Not only do you have the two bosses there, including a Sparkle, which could be our Mystery Wyvern sitting out there, but you also have two key items by virtue of the Warp Glitch.
On top of that, we have the Pan in hand, so that is, another 3 key item checks. And that is a Dark Elf sitting on top of the tower.
That is a not required Dark Elf, which, again, leads to interesting decisions about how badly you want to go check there. And it sits in the back of your mind and bothers you, because if you're not finding that darkness crystal, you wonder, it's a long walk up the top of tower, but it could be sitting there. That's a Kane main spot. There's good odds for us to get that darkness crystal that we absolutely need to go check some of the more important spots in this game, or access the giant to do all kinds of fun things with Tella. But I think you make a good point, is that Pan is worth potentially up to 3 key items. We've only found 5 so far, and of course 10's the magic number where you get double experience for the rest of the seed. So finding that, maybe 2 items in Dwarf Castle and the freebie in the Fame March, that's 10.
Absolutely. And one thing to note too is that Monday is Dark Elf's favorite holiday.
Ah, yes. Well, Dark Elf likes to tell one of my favorite jokes about piracy. The classic question of what a pirate says when he drops his doubloons. Aha, me change. But for those who are unaware, Monday will be International Talk Like a Pirate Day. Of course, Free Enterprise will usually take a break from the tournament action on Monday, so we encourage all of you out there to instead go out, buckle your swashes, and celebrate appropriately.
Here comes the bonk on the head to a non-pirate. In the legendary battle of pirates versus monks, the pan will win.
And our third encounter with Yang tonight was the Darkness Crystal. That is quite the payoff for Slippery choosing to do pan first.
Yeah, both runners getting that pan early. That is a huge pickup.
Well, just because Commander picked up the pan doesn't mean he's necessarily going there first. There are a lot of choices. I mean, there's a free item in the Fey March. There's 2 bosses and 2 key items sitting in Dwarf Castle. Sometimes people will want to sit and fade that pan check with Yang until they're ready to go underground. But Commander says, nope, I've got the pan. I'm right next to it. I'm going to go down there right now, and he will be rewarded with his Darkness Crystal.
I mean, technically, it's a free check. So you check your freebies, by the ones you got. May not be a boss, but it's free.
Commander also wants to take a couple of monster boxes as he makes his way, and he finds the Toad Lady chest. Ooh, very nice.
That's what you want to see right there. There's an adamant just sitting there. That's French vanilla.
Yeah, that's an improvement on efficiency because it cuts out the middleman and going to the tail collector.
Right.
Coffins for sale in the Fey March as well, so interesting pickup, but of course I think the big tier item that's missing now is we still have not seen sirens.
Yes, we have not, but we do have an edge. We could just steal all the sirens that we wanted to.
Well, Odin is summoned, and he whiffed the check on the Toad Lady, unfortunately.
That's not something you want to see.
Nope.
This is the trap chest that I think Commander was wanting to pick. This is a free thing, and this is also going to be something Slippery doesn't have. So if this is some fine Hanzo steel, then Commander is definitely going to be winning out on doing this check. But meanwhile, Slippery is still shopping, looking for stuff here. Not much here in the Fate March, it looks like.
Yeah, if you're looking for a ninja sword for Edge, this is not the place to find it, apparently. But we're going to get our look at our 2 bosses here, and the fun choice of whether it is Free March or Fade March or just unpleasantness. The boss on the right is going to be would be tempting. There are coffins in inventory for Slippery, but Slippery decides these bosses are not required. I have my Darkness Crystal. We're not going to waste the time.
I would agree with that. You are looking for 5 bosses. The chance that particular spot is holding a chain that leads to 2 bosses, not super high at the immediate moment.
I might have been tempted to deal with the officer and guards in the queen spot. I would have no interest in that Valvalis at the king spot. That is an unpleasant, ugly, long fight.
That is a nope.
All right. Slippery, perhaps anticipating Wyvern could be here, sets the battle speed down and is going to head out to check out the bosses of Dwarf Castle.
Even if Wyvern's not here, Octomammoth is, but even if Wyvern's not here, we're still looking at Plague, D-Lunar, and Nope Rope or Wyvern being at the spot. All of those, if there's a rough first fight, which Octomammoth is not, but all of those would benefit from a little bit lower battle speed in this particular spot.
Well, and again, you only get that shot to set your battle speed before you see who this first boss is, so you're kind of locked in. And there are worse bosses here to have the low battle speed on. Octomam's not going to be a terrible fight as far as delaying you by things. If we had someone like Dr. Dialogue or Dark Knight Cecil sitting here, you get to sit there and look at your watch and tap your foot while they ramble on.
Will they sing my song too?
There's probably a good chance. You never know. There is enough dancing in this spot.
This is true. I mean, if you can't ramble on, then you might as well just dance. Still summons not the fried calamari that we want.
No, I'm curious because I think Commander still has most of his lightning gear equipped. That's actually going to come in extremely handy for this fight.
Yep, and knows that he can do swap arounds, outside. Ooh, there's a Leviathan summon if you want to invest in that Rydia. I would say that is a big pickup. Except if she learns it for free on Slippery's side.
Well, we will find out momentarily.
I am waiting in anticipation.
Well, Commander is not finding fantastic gear in the free treasures here, but will he find that Hanzo steel that is so coveted in the weapon shop?
Oh, clicked so fast I didn't see what that was.
Ooh,
Oh.
Ogo. Well, speaking of bosses that can be unpleasant in this spot, thankfully that was only Ogo. It was only Octo in the front, rather, because this, if you had a somebody like Golbez, this Ogo fight could be really, really unpleasant afterward.
Porum said, wave? What wave?
But only about 3,000 hit points here. I'm not expecting there to be a problem. However, looking through that list of summons on Rydia's menu, I did not see Leviathan in there.
That is true. You got
I
an
also-
Asura.
Yeah, I also didn't see Titan in there, which is also kind of nice, seeing as Quake can be quite a handy thing to have, and it sounds like Rydia's going to be waiting a while to get it.
Yeah, but we got Cockatrice.
This is true, and we got Imp.
Utility. Leviathan's just waiting for sale in Dwarf. You know, the game knew.
Well, that Edge, I believe, has a Thunderclaw on and is going to be doing some bad things with that Bacchus wine.
Yep, and Rydia's going to join in the fight, say fight water with water. That works.
Our dear restreamer Salakitty pointing out Imp strategies are now possible with Rydia.
And against the Wyvern, at the right spot, Imp strategies are quite a thing.
That Leviathan is quite a jump in power level for Rydia there, and a Legend Sword Forge is available, and we're in position to go get it easily.
Oh, slippery.
It has not warped.
Slippery.
You can still warp from here if you remember.
And it's not a bad thing. Slippery could just be thinking, you know, I'm going to run down there anyway. Got the Lucky Key in hand. So not a bad thing if not going to take advantage of the warp glitch.
No, it could be a lot worse, but yeah, that can be a dangerous spot and problem. That Leviathan again showing why it could be a really rough thing here, but with the lack of hit points, I don't think this that Ogo, excuse me, the Ogo's not going to be long for the world here.
No, not at all. Yeah,
Slippery also.
Yeah.
Well, Slippery's also interested in Leviathan and picks one up.
How could you not be? He's so cute and snuggly when he, real shy and stuff.
Okay, Slippery has foregone the warp and will probably be walking down Luca, and hopefully will not cost him too much time.
Yep, we'll see if Commander takes advantage of the warp glitch. Slippery said, you know what? That was my plan all along.
Yep.
That was the plan all along, was just run down there.
And the red hand has appeared on Commander Leonhart's side. He is through the Dwarf Castle bosses and will shortly be receiving his sword. However, Commander Leonhart has not yet been to the Fey March and doesn't have the Adamant.
Right, and Slippery has not forged yet.
No, Slippery felt like going to the Sealed Cave was a much higher priority. I don't know. The problem with Forge is, unlike the Sea Hero type seed, the Forge in this will not be tied to a specific character, so you are kind of playing the lottery when you go out to Forge. It could be a great item. You could get, say, an Abel's Lance that'll make Kain incredible, or they could hand you something completely useless and, say, a Loki Harp for Edward, who's not in the party. Oh my, do you see what I see in the Sealed Cave?
Let's say it together so we can be really excited at the same time.
Let's do it. Hooray!
Hooray! I can get underground.
Now.
Yay!
Yay! The beloved Magna Key has been found, and we know this seed is now valid and worth playing.
Always valid. Every seed is valid.
Every key item is important, and some of them are more important than others, but we love Magna Key. Well, speaking of validating the seed, we see that Job Dwarf is a job printer.
Wait, the Job Dwarf.
The Job Dwarf
is a job printer.
I believe that's what he said.
Yay!
Good news! Hooray! We can get underground again.
We can get underground again.
Yay! All right, and there they are, the sirens.
And there was much rejoicing in chat.
Well, interesting. A lot of things on the table now for our runners and a lot of choices. And a not required ruby, Slippery rejects holding the Magma Key.
Cannot get underground now.
Yep. Well, interesting. Commander Leonhart's going to go take a look in the Fame March now. Slippery spent a lot of time shopping down here, so this is an opportunity where Commander can make up a little bit of ground on him. I think once he's done shopping in Tomra, unless he elects to go Forge, Slippery is about finished doing underground checks. Commander thinks a little better of doing the Fame March before he checks the Luca key, and he's going to go down to find out that Ruby's down there.
Yeah, and that's, same amount of time both runners are doing it. So right now, Slippery is just a Fey March ahead of Commander. We'll see if Slippery decides to do that Forge before heading back. Does still have Sheila 1, Sheila 2. She could be holding on to something important. Hey, a job printer again.
Yep, and again, the count is we're sitting at 8 key items, and so it kind of actually, 8 key items are going to be on both sides, but the Commander has that easy adamant rock to pick up there. That could be a big deal depending on how strongly Sheila wants to supply our party with useful items tonight. Because that 10 key item is a big point in deciding to sit down and start cracking eggs and making your way up to get some big spells on Porum and Rydia.
Absolutely, and not gonna Forge. Slippery does not want to take the chance that it's a fiery hammer and gonna have to take that Sid, because why not?
Well, the other side of the Forge is always to see if you can find something wonderful in the Forge shop, and I'm sitting here kind of racking my brain. It's like, yes, there are upgrades. You could improve that silent staff that both runners found into a life staff. You could upgrade those black belts into power shirts, but is it really worth the time? And I kind of have to agree with Slippery. I'm not sure that he's going to get that much in the way of upgrades for this party.
Could be Murasame.
It could be. Well, and crystal rings are handy. We still haven't seen Golbez, and that leaves us the possibility he could be sitting in somewhere unpleasant.
Could be an edge weapon from the Supersmith.
All right, well, Slippery is on his way to Fabul. Meanwhile, we'll find out how much Commander feels like skipping leg day.
Always skip leg day. I mean, never skip leg day.
Oh,
at least Commander let us see the leg.
Well, Commander is not like Batman in that he is willing to skip leg day.
All right, and on his way out, that was a gold apple and a Baron.
And a Baron key. That's interesting though, because the Baron key may give that 10th key item. Otherwise, Slippery would be sitting locked on 9. But with the 3 bosses inside of Baron, even though we know that the first one's not one that we're after in that form of Mylon, the Baron almost always seems to have value in this flag set.
Yeah, and there's usually something sitting on the throne. I mean, there's always something sitting on one of those 2 thrones, don't get me wrong, but whether or not it's required. But if it ends up being like a blurg on that Baron throne, that's rude. That is rude.
Well, and that can be an unpleasant surprise if you are caught unawares by it. I think with the heroine robe on Porum, we are going to be in fairly decent shape for messing around that particular boss, but you never know. Wyvern in that spot has made unpleasant times for many a runner.
I mean, Wyvern just makes unpleasant times for every runner, depending on where he's at. In most seeds, 97% of the time, every time.
That's why I love Miss Cave Wyvern. He, as a runner, as a commentator and viewer, I like to see Wyvern sitting in Giant 1.
Oh, if you Giant 1 with CPU as a required boss, that is where, if you want to make somebody cry and quit the game named Bad Karma, that is where you put CPU.
Well, honestly, the real unpleasant thing, in my mind, the worst boss of all for Enterprise is Kanatso at the Giant 1 spot, but thankfully we will not be faced with that tonight. Commander looks at the bosses down below and also elects to fade the march.
Probably the right move, is we are going to get the Forge. Let's see if this weapon is going to be worth the time.
Well, do you have a prediction for what we're going to see here today, Bad Karma?
Hammer, please give it to me. Let's sit bug things.
No, I want to see, let's get a Sunrise Boomerang here for, get a nice edge weapon.
Oh, Ribbon Quest, that's just mean.
Meanwhile, no problem, sending the Mylon Zed back into the Deep Ravine, and Slippery about to give us a look at the second boss inside of Baron.
Yep, wants to try and get a couple more crystal rings, knows that Kolbez is available, so if we can get one more, that is going to make for a really speedy party to really help out, since Commander has not found that curse ring for sale
And
yet.
Slippery has found our required Magus sisters that are really behind the throne of Baron.
They were like, listen, turtles are not meant to be in charge. We'll put this trench coat on, and we will be in charge.
Well, I suspect that there's going to be a large flood in the future of these three sisters. You can put up your wall there. It will not do you any good there, Cindy.
That's right.
Ooh, a Flawn Sword.
Commander, you got to do it. Oh, no.
Not equipable. It is not a payout there, but Commander does get some nice. I think you're right though. Those with the lack of the curse ring, those crystals rings are going to help him deal with some of his agility anchoring problems. Meanwhile, Slippery has no problem taking care of the Magus sisters and will give us a show to be saved by a little petrification.
A little petrification? That is a lot of petrification. I mean, you lost beloved twins to that in the vanilla game. That is major petrification.
Yes, but now we have the power of sleep and the power of splashing.
That is touche.
And besides, you can see Porum is fine. Of course, Palom is off having a grand adventure somewhere.
All right, what is in the trash can now?
A white shirt. Again, it's not a bad pickup, but if Slippery's trying to get that 10th key item, that's not quite what he's looking for.
But is it really a white shirt if you're pulling it out of trash? Let's just be honest here.
Meanwhile, Commander about to get his Baron key and reach the 10 key item mark, which could lead to a little bit of siren time. But we'll see how badly Commander wants to go check his bosses.
That shop was mean. Slippery went in there looking for ninja swords and found a ninja hat and ninja jammies.
Well, it's like here, we don't have ninja sword, but we'll give you the next best thing that we do have. And it has ninja in the title. It's practically the same.
That's mean!
But yes, as Xenocat has pointed out, I liberated Baron Castle and all I got was this stupid white shirt.
Yeah, Commander is also at 10 key items now. Slippery is at 9. So really hoping that this is the required boss that gives a 10th key item.
Well, we'll see. I mean, there are some unpleasant, time-consuming bosses down here that are not just CPU. But like Dr. Luggage, for example, is a pretty good time sink if we find him here. But the required CPU is down here, and though it's a time-wasting boss, I'm sure Slippery's still happy to see it.
That is a boss you are great and happy to see right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not the best place for CPU, but it's certainly not the worst one either. It's just it's not with the damage that the attacker does. Unless you start playing games with Globe 199, this is not a terrible boss fight. But we'll see. It looks like Rudy is queuing up something big here.
Big seal spells. Doesn't want to take out the little orbs, so wanting to do some focus single target damage. Don't blame it. Not wanting to play with the globes.
Well, the question that is on my mind is: are you tempted to throw any of your darts at this CPU to try and speed the fight up? Both runners are still sitting on that spoon.
I don't think you throw it here.
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe if there's a nasty wyvern's the other place I might be saving it for, but there's a good time saving to be had here. So I'm curious to see what Commander does when he gets to this point, because I'm sure he'll be checking the basement as soon as he's through the main check here.
Yeah, but this is only like 23,000-ish or something like that. You already went through that on the hook route. What's another 23,000?
Touché.
Pyrelight, I do not believe it can be thrown. I don't know that for certain. Somebody much more invested in Google may be able to answer that, but I cannot right now.
Thank you, Zeno, pointing out that this is about 20,500 hit points.
I had the right numbers.
Yeah.
Had the right numbers, just the wrong order.
Well, meanwhile, CommanderLeonhart again risking tripping into the deep ravine, but I suspect he will not fall into it, particularly with Porum doing that kind of major damage. Holy moly.
Yeah. That Heroine Robe, Artemis Bow, Porum is like, let's go. Who needs white magic? There's the dart.
Yep. And that looked like...
A light sword, I think.
Yep. Believe so. So that spoon's still being held, and we're going to gamble with Leviathan and see if we can take this thing down, because this will definitely kill our attacker orb. Commander Leonhart finding the good news that there is a required boss here. Again, the value of this Baron key was that it was hard required with 2 bosses stuck back here.
Yep. And that was good to definitely get that out of the way. So we are going to be down to looking for 2 out of 3 bosses going up on the moon. I suspect we will be going... Hey, that's another dart.
Again, no Cecil to wield it, but that's a fantastic item for Edge to throw, and Edge is getting very close to levels where he can do quad 9s with that kind of weaponry.
Yeah, and we are going to be walking that out for the required boss.
But again, Slippery stuck at 9 key items because of the magma key that was not kept from the sealed cave.
Yeah, and that really depends on what Slippery's going to do next. So, is Slippery going to demachine, check out those giant bosses, or is Slippery going to head to the moon looking for a 10th key item? Still a lot of options available for Slippery, a lot of key items still to find. We don't know.
Well, it's interesting because I think we have access to all but 3 boss locations now,
Right.
which kind of, again, when I talk about that time pressure in your mind as a runner, it's like there's a lot of the world open to me. That Darkness Crystal wasn't terribly well hidden, so there's a good chance my opponent is out doing things that could be putting me behind. So there's a bit of a pressure for the runners here to try and make good decisions to figure out where to go. That being said, I think they both exhausted what they can do here on the Earth.
Yeah, and I wouldn't feel behind if I were one of these 2 runners right now. Finding 2 required bosses behind this Baron key, I'd actually be feeling really good about it. To not head to the moon. You would be hoping that your opponent did go to the moon without checking Sheila 1.
Right. Well, I believe with the 3 items and spots we're missing, that means that there are 11 bosses that we have not seen yet. And since we're going to have access to 6 checks on the moon, I think it's a little better than 50% odds that we'll find 2 of the 3 bosses we need up on the moon.
It is good odds, but they're not the best odds.
No, and that's why there's some room for variance. But it's really a choice between doing that and doing the giant, so I suspect we'll see them both on the moon. But you never know. Sometimes people want to make a cheeky play and do a little metagaming in mind about how to handle these things. You know, the other scary play about this is just because there's decent odds they're both up here, if we have 2 giants tucked in those 3 checks we can't find, and you are choosy about which checks you take, you could dig yourself into an interesting hole here.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time in this event that we've went into face check mode and come up empty, not like Millhouse, and definitely having to backtrack. And that's what our runners don't want to do, is having to go back to any of these fights. So Slippery is going to head into the moon. I think if I was Slippery, I would just go to the bottom. Hit that ribbon room, hit that white spear, try and get that 10th key item before hitting some of these bosses. I think that would be my play.
Well, and both runners have a fairly hefty stack of hourglasses, they have some sirens, and they have that dragoon spear, so grinding gold dragons isn't going to be a terribly inefficient way to go here, especially if you can get that 10 key items. So I think you're right. Slippery may be looking at that ribbon room. There's 2 cracks at a key item in there, and if he gets it, then he's got the opportunity to get his grind out of the way, just do some gold dragons, and then be ready to go finish the seed.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Commander, on the other hand, is still going to be looking for 2 bosses. If I was Commander, I would actually be incentivized to be going top down, check cave value, check Murasame, and hope to find my last 2 bosses in those spots.
Well, he's got his 10 key items, so I think as soon as you see him done in Baron Castle, Commander's going to be off to grind. But you never know. There's room for strategies, and people, there's a reason these 2 are in the tournament, and I am not.
I mean, what kind of grind? We're gonna grind an axe, grind a knife, grind that one of that Excalibur that we just got, so it's a nice and easier dart. What are we grinding?
Well, Commander has found his 5th boss in CPU and taken care of business despite getting a little globe action, and so we are going to make our way out, and we'll be seeing Commander going somewhere in the Lunar Whale. Meanwhile, Slippery has made the long walk down the moon and is elected to start in the ribbon room.
Yeah, interesting choice, but again, that is the best odds for Slippery to get those 2 key items. This is the free fight. This is exactly where you want to see Water Hag.
Yep, a very, very simple fight here, and a good chunk of experience coming, but hopefully those 2 key items that are going to be so critical.
Anna, definitely the long lost love tale of Anna and Jake.
Well, I mean, if you're Slippery, you're kind of hoping to get 2 out of the Twin Harp, the package, and the Tower Key, because at that point you are in pure face check mode. You have opportunities to reach all of the bosses, and on top of that, you know that your opponent's going to have to come through the same path that you're doing in order to complete the checks you're doing.
All right, let's see what do we got here in the ribbon room. One's a key item.
Yeah, that one is what is all that Slippery needed.
That's all Slippery needed was the pink tail. Probably not going to see that turned in, but it's good to know that we got it.
Well, Slippery doing a quick cure, trying to save a little bit on the camping gear, and we will see if we're going to do another boss check or if we're heading off for dragons. We're going to go take a look at the White Spear Altar.
I like this play. 10 key items. Kill as many bosses as you can. They're worth a good chunk of XP. Especially when they're free.
Well, apparently we decided to evict all the hard bosses from the moon. We've got a couple easy ones up here. What do you think the odds are that we're going to come across a another? What is left out there that is low effort?
Nothing.
Yeah, we've seen.
Yeah.
I think all the other free bosses that are easily coffinable are missing, so we're not going to see a trio of this when we get to the Masamune altar.
Calbrina is free.
Calbrina is somewhat free, yeah. Especially since we have hourglasses. I think, if I've been counting correctly, I think Slippery has 4 and CommanderLeonhart has 7 or 8 still.
Also, ironically, I think CommanderLeonhart has Odin learned, so he does. Can use that on Cal.
Well, as you suggested, CommanderLeonhart thought your advice to go look at cave value is wonderful, and we'll see how valuable it is.
Now I'm beginning to suspect these runners are listening in, because that's a Lunar Sparkle.
That is a Lunar Sparkle, and that could be our valuable Wyvern, which this is a unpleasant spot for Wyvern to be in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Plague is technically out there and is free if you can take the right steps during it. Honestly, the worst spots for Plague to be in for a fight we've already passed, so it's definitely going to be doable. CommanderLeonhart has elected to do his grind now. Another Excalibur, holy swords by the bushel in this seed.
Oh, that's mean.
Well, honestly, it's better finding the Excaliburs than finding the Crystal Swords. Edge can put those to work. I mean, we may not see Edge berserked at all for this Aromas fight. He just may be throwing darts the whole time. Because I think the runners... I mean, just looking on Slippery's side, I believe he's holding 2 Excaliburs and a spoon right now. That's 30,000 damage.
Yeah, that is a good flying chunk. Here we go, though. We are going to get this Masamune altar.
And the Masamune altar has the Calbrina boss, and as noted in chat by our illustrious, I think it was Xenocat. No, it was not Xenocat. The Calbrina Dells was noted by Ribbon Quest as being up here with a hourglass. This is a free fight.
Super free.
Yeah. This is the moon of, now I think in Slippery's mind, you have to wonder, you went and you did the Baron Key first, and yes, there were required bosses, and that was nice, but what if your opponent came up here and got all the experience?
I still wouldn't feel behind with that. And knowing that I'm 1 boss away, Slippery's probably gonna run straight to the Crystal Sword altar right after this. Check that spot,
and then start looking at the 2 top spots.
Yeah.
Frankly, there is that sparkle sitting in Cave Value right now. We could be very close to knowing where what's needed to complete the seed is sitting.
Tower Key, that is also boss location we have not seen yet. How could we have seen it?
That's a little bit reassuring for Slippery that he is a bit less likely to get completely locked out if the last boss locations decide to be very cruel.
Yeah, and having all these free bosses here at the bottom of the moon is definitely going to be making our runners feel really good, just because you're not going to be running back down to the bottom of the moon. Once we clear this out, we have a pass. And it looks like we are going to get dueling double dragon grinds.
Well, I'm seeing double here. 4 gold dragons.
Dueling. While the dragons are summoned and beaten, we do want to give our runners a shout out. If you have not done so, please give them a follow. This has been a most excellent race for them to be putting on here, as well as our fantastic restream team, with Scala Kitty doing the memes in the restreams, and the fried potato with the biggest name in free enterprise doing the tracking, and my co-commentator Tall Grant. If you haven't done so, put the follows out there, show the team the love as well.
And the same goes for my co-commentator Bad Karma. Always a good time on the stream with him, and a very fantastic time being on comms with him as well. I will say, if you haven't watched Slippery and Commander Leonhart, both of them are fun channels to watch. I know Slippery has been a long-time tournament runner with Free Enterprise and does neat things. And of course, Commander Leonhart runs our very own 99%ers Club, which actually is still active despite the fact that ZZ5 has been going on. So if you want to get involved in one of our racing clubs, even though it's off-season, that's a great place to go peek at it.
Absolutely. And if you haven't done so, check out the Free Enterprise Discord. That's where you can find any and all information that you could ever want to know about Free Enterprise and Final Fantasy IV. Some of it you probably didn't want to know or need to know.
Gee, Bad Karma, if only we had a link to where people could find our Discord and chat.
Somebody will do that. That someone was me. Ha!
Spamming the commands in chat. Good times.
I'm just glad that I got it in before Scala.
Well, I think both of these runners have the same goal, which is going to be pushing Rydia all the way up to Nuke. And the interesting thing is that it's going to take about 100,000 extra experience to get Rydia to Nuke, as opposed to what it will take to get Porum up to White. Porum gets a bit of grief for the some of the things about how long she takes to level relative to Rosa, but frankly, she can do a lot of heavy lifting, and really the longest journey of any of the characters to get out to max end level thing is on that Rydia thing. But I think with this party, having Nuke is something both runners want to have for that Zeromus fight. It makes a big difference in how fast and how easy that fight's going to be.
I 100% agree. I don't necessarily even think that White is required, especially with the number of bosses we still have left to go for. So Slippery has got at least one more boss fight to do. Commander's got 2 with all those free fights at the bottom. So while he's already got White and is ready to roll, gonna be seeing those free fights and go, huh.
Yeah, but on the other hand, there's nothing quite so fun as watching Porum cast White and take down Zeromus.
That is also true. I like it when she bonks it with a silent staff.
Looks like both runners are about done with the grind at the same time. Commander has elected to exit out for safety before going to check that boss, and with the potential that Wyvern is there, that's not a bad call. Wyvern can be an ugly, ugly boss, and if he's fast enough, you could lose all those levels that you spent the time grinding with the gold dragons. So important safety movement on Commander Leonhart's part.
Yep, and Slippery's going to be getting the last look at these altars here at the bottom of the LST. Doesn't know that if this is Wyvern here for Commander, this will be no mode for us here in the booth.
Well, Commander anticipating Wyvern could be here and dropping the battle speed down. It is not. It is Plague.
Oh, is it Vanilla Wyvern? No.
No, Golbez is masquerading as Wyvern, and Slippery is in no mode, as are we.
Slippery's in go mode after beating this, because Giggles here is just gonna, the magic here is not great for Giggles.
Well, for those of you who don't know a ton about how the Free Enterprise randomizer was set up, the bosses are randomized throughout the seeds and generally scale up and down in both attack and magic power related to where they go. In a spot like the Crystal Sword altar, where Wyvern natively lives, despite rumors Antlion likes to hang out there, it was a purely magic spot, and so in order to keep him under control, the magic stat on this area was turned down. Now on the other side of things, since Wyvern doesn't do a lot of physical attacks, the physical attack power in this spot can be quite unpleasant. Seeing as their boss wasn't going to use it, the developers felt no problem leaving it up fairly high. But as our esteemed tracker is pointing out, this bottom part of the moon has a bunch of bosses that are effectively free. This is about as free of a moon as you're going to find.
Absolutely free moon here. This is, when you're a runner, this is the kind of moon you want to see. I would be really concerned if this is Wyvern.
And we have the other form of Mylon sitting up at the Murasame altar. Not good news for Commander Leonhart. He is going to have to get down to the bottom and find the two bosses Slippery has.
Yeah, so I think Commander is still in this, definitely, even with the grinding being done and things like that. It's just how, I don't think Commander's going to take those free fights. So it's probably just going to go into face check mode, and even with them being free, probably just going to go and just start, check them and resetting them. That's going to gain him a lot of time.
Well, there's Slippery finally deciding to start using those darts in the inventory. That first X-Cal comes out.
Yeah, and I think that'll probably be the only X-Cal we see come out. This is once the party is back up, this is well underhand, especially now that Rydia is casting spells.
Well, I don't think this Golbez is too much longer for the world before he's going to question everything. Question the basics of his existence. That should be happening shortly.
Definitely is going to return to the joke book to make other people laugh instead of himself. And come back to torment us again with his mysterious location in the next.
Well, Golbez asks why, and Crystal is imminent for Slippery.
There's white for Slippery, and Rydia only got to Fatal, so...
Yeah, Rydia is still a couple levels short of having that, just short of having that nuke. An interesting choice. Will Slippery stop and try and find a couple more gold dragons, or is Slippery going to go for it?
I think you got to get the nuke. I think that's way too much potential damage for a small time loss, especially depending on how close she is.
I'm not sure Slippery's going for it.
Still could. The gold dragons are over in K value as well, or could even do eggs. So probably just heading back down to the moon, or back down to
Yeah, that Dragoon Spear equipping means that I think eggs are going to be picked up and are going to be the favorite choice. Commander Leonhart electing to take the 200,000 experience from that free water hag and look for key items. Of course, he doesn't have the info that the other two bosses he needs are going to be down here in the Lunar subterranean. They are kind of strategically placed about as far as possible from any of the centralizing points.
Yep, and that's not a bad play either. This is more XP, but it's also insurance. You don't want to have to start face checking and come backwards.
Well, it's a very similar position that we saw Slippery in, with the exception of the fact that the grind's already been done.
Absolutely. So we are going to see a few more eggs. We do have Dragoon Spear has been equipped, so definitely going to get nuke for Slippery. So we'll see how much ground Commander will make up if he continues to fight some of these free bosses or continues to check for them. And is that enough for the nuke? It is.
That one egg is all that was needed.
Let's see. Did we do any more? Nope. Slippery says, I am ready for this.
Well, Kane's got about the best weapon you're going to find for him outside of a forge. I'm not sure we ever found Great Hanzo Seal for Edge, but we've got a few darts for him to make him useful, and of course that nuke is going to be probably... His Rydia has been well equipped almost all seed.
Yep, and so we're going to do some swapping around, some moving around, probably none of that. I'm a terrible, terrible commentating liar. Slippery's going right in, and we got some flags being raised. It is way too early for Monday.
Well, for those of you who are fairly new to Free Enterprise, while we randomize all the bosses, we cannot randomize Zeromus, the final boss. He is big, he is nasty, he has an ugly, long script that just would not fit anywhere else in the game. So we have to leave him in his spot at the very end of the game and make him the final boss. But we have to randomize things. We have to make things different. So we've got a pool of, I believe, over 570 sprites, from which we'll choose one for Zeromus, and we will find out momentarily what form Zeromus is going to take. Bad Karma, do you wish to do the honor?
Yes. Is he a pirate? I'm stealing your question, Scala.
In the name of the moon, whose pirate booty are we going to kick tonight?
That's right. Is it cute? Does it have a hat? No, it will not do your 401k unless it's interplanetary. I do not doubt that there is probably a number of pirates in this pool.
Well, I think if we see King K. Rool, we would give him credit.
Yeah, we would. Commander, though, is getting the Calbretta dolls as Slippery is throwing the crystal. We will see how this fight goes for Slippery. Zemus is not a free fight, even with these levels. Things can go very much sideways depending on, whether you're counting, whether you're not counting, whether, a wall falls off at some point. Kind of nerdy housewife, no, Zemus cannot do your taxes for you.
All right, Zemus will transform, and we will see the final form. Dark Side Omus.
That's a very cute bud.
Well, as one knows, all that you touch and all that you see is eclipsed by the dark side of the moon.
Can't eat your meat if you don't have any pudding.
Slippery has dropped a Star Veil on Edge. Edge is going to be our reflecting target. We're going to reflect the nukes with Rydia. That will prevent Zemus from countering these spells. And normally, if you cast a spell on Zemus, he will throw nuke back at you.
Yep, in this particular instance, there will be no nukes thrown back unless a silk web gets thrown right immediately.
Well, we're in a little bit of the danger zone here because we have not done anything directly to nerf this Big Bang. And Tella has queued up a Silk Web, which will both slow Zemus down and lower his magic power for this first Big Bang. Meanwhile, we do get a white cast out of Porum to go with that Spoon Toss. Looks like all the pieces that have been saved on Slippery Side are coming out now. Commander, making his way over to the Crystal Sword Altar, is going to find our Laughing Comedian and his last required boss for the seed.
Yep, and got the reflected nuke as well. Man, everything is coming up Millhouse for Slippery on this side.
Well, this is what, when you loot like this and find all the good things for Rydia, this is the kind of power you can get out of her.
This is why we let Rydia hit things.
Mm-hmm.
She's been useful all seed. Even though Porum was the hero the heroine for Commander Leonhart, Rydia has been doing a lot of the work too. So we will see how this goes. Tella taking his nap says, "I'm done."
Aim putting in great work with that defense sword, and we should be getting fairly close to the hit point refill on Zemus here. For those of you who do not know the Zemus fight well and the intricacies of the programming, the game can't actually hold the 100,000 or so hit points the developers had intended for Zemus, so instead, once Zemus has reached 45,000 points of damage and receives additional damage, direct damage, he will refill his hit points back up to, I believe, 62,000. So at that point, his script kind of resets, so if you can tip him over in that damage, it buys you a little bit more time to work through the fight, and I believe that Slippery has made it past that point, so we're a little more than halfway through the Zemus fight here.
Yeah, with the damage that is coming out, we've got nukes, we've got whites, we've got darts, and a Berserk Cane. This has definitely been a fast and furious fight. Barring some weird big bang in the Medio.
Well, it looks like the last of the major darts is about to come out of here, but I think that's going to take us pretty close to where rocks are going to be. And here's a shake to make it interesting. This is where it gets a little bit scary, because if you get that big bang into a Medio, that can be a lot of damage on the party.
Yeah, but we do have a lot of levels, we do have a lot of gear, so we could be dodging some of those rolls. There is rocks, though.
Rocks falling for bad karma. That's the sign that Zemus is almost defeated. There's less than 12,000 hit points to go, and probably there's the class. Boom. We have bad karma having completed the seed and winning the race at not bad karma, Slippery, my apologies, at 1:29 and 53 seconds.
I ran that seed excellently from the booth.
I can think of zero mistakes I saw you make running that seed, sir.
First time I've ever done that. All right, we will see if Slippery wants to join us here for an interview, as Commander Leonhart just received his crystal and will be traveling probably back to the Blue Planet, going through the pass, and will be battling the Blameless. All right. Exit Cass, and we're joined by Slippery. GG's.
Ahoy, thank you.
Yeah, Slippery, that was a quite the fun and exciting seed, and really kind of an adventure around every turn. What did you think of the run as you were completing it?
I thought it was a pretty nice seed overall, just because it's you never like to see having to hit every single boss spot, unless you're the unless you're the person who rolled the seed for somebody else, right? So everything kind of came up in sensible locations. I didn't have to dig down every rabbit hole. I was really nervous after I made 2 blunders in the underground that you're probably thinking of. I'm sure everybody in chat was mentioning, hey, you forgot the warp glitch was on, and then also I could have easily coffined the Kaipo hit squad in the Fey March. I don't think there was anything there, but
Well, seeing as neither you nor Commander took a look at it, I'm still a little bit curious to see if there's anything there. But obviously the value is up on the moon. You found your bosses there and behind the Baron key, so it couldn't have been anything too terribly mission critical. Tell us, what prompted you when you very, very early in the seed popped your head into Troya, made you go take a look in the armor shop?
Troya armor shop. I forget what I was after there. I do a lot of just general.
Well, you found a
general
cursed
shop
ring
checking.
that I think served you pretty well through almost all of the seed.
Yeah, so I kind of take the path I do. Do a bunch of character checks that involve some looting, and then go by Troya and just kind of fill up my coffers so I can buy anything like that pops in. And I do like to do a lot of shopping early on to try and find some of those investment items, like besides the cursed ring. Like a mute knife is really handy to have. Also, any kind of any flavors of arrows I'm missing, making sure I have all 3 elemental claws when I have edge or yang on hand. So it was just kind of routine.
Did you, what was going through your head? I know that because of the lack of the warp glitch, you missed that magma key because you didn't want to sit through the ruby fight and the walk back out. But we happened to notice that after you got your Baron key, you were sitting on 9 key items. Did it perturb you at all to do both the Baron checks and come up with things that, while decent items, were not that 10th key item to help you with your grind?
It did perturb me, but considering there were 2 required bosses in Baron, I think I made out okay. I mean, I went to Baron entirely hoping to get a 10th key item, and the boss hunts are just out there, right? But it was a nice consolation prize.
Absolutely. So you are going to be moving on here in this Waning bracket in Highway to Zemus Zone 5. I believe your next opponent is Big Dunka. How are you feeling about that match?
Not sure yet. I need to check out some of their previous matches and do a little bit of that opponent scouting, and just to see what I'm up against. But I think anybody who has made it this far is definitely a formidable opponent. So I'll have to bring my A game.
Absolutely.
Well, I thought you brought your A game tonight. It was quite a fun show for us to watch.
Thanks.
Very fun race. That's all I have for Slippery. You got anything else, Saul Grant?
I don't. Slippery, did you have any final thoughts on the seed and what you have planned for the next week of preparation?
Nope, just shout-outs to anybody in chat who appreciated the Advance Wars CEO naming scheme.
Yeah, it did not go unnoticed, so that's awesome.
Well, GG's once again, and look forward to seeing you next week going up against Big Dunka.
All right, thanks a lot, and thanks to all of you fine folks in the booth and behind the scenes doing restreaming and tracking.
Yep, congratulations and GG.
That was our first place winner, Slippery, winning at 1 hour, 29 minutes, and 53 seconds. So please, once again, get your GGs in chat. Meanwhile, Commander Leonhart is a full bore on this Floyd miss. Is set up with Reflex on edge and is looking in a pretty good position.
Yeah, and I see a 9,000 white cast out of Porum there. It looks like that this prism is not going to be long for the world.
Yeah, and Commander did go and swap anchors, so took the base level Sid instead of the highly leveled Tella. So does have a good agility situation. Ooh, going for the Asura heal, making use of that second best healer in the game.
Yeah, just letting Porum continue to cast white and putting Ashura down to try and take that 2 out of 3 shot to get good high level healing here. That being said, with the damage going out, I'm not sure that this is going to be too much of a problem finishing the fight.
The second best healer goes right through that wall on edge. Everybody's full health. More whites, more nukes, more fighting coming out, and it looks like we are going to try and skip the refill because holding up there with Kane and Edge.
Well, you know what we say, more dots, more dots.
Always throw more dots at it. Ooh, the harp song is cave one.
Okay, another nuke coming from Rydia. The party has survived survived another big bang, so that should help put things in good shape for Commander Leonhart here. Those 9,000 casts are just chewing through these hit points.
Yeah, this has got to be really close. Oh no.
That black hole could be a problem.
Yeah, the Asura's going to come out, but I think that white is still going to wipe
That
Edge
white is
out.
still queued onto Edge.
Yeah, and there goes Edge. Kane, however, is going to put a Star Veil up. We're in phase 2.
Yeah, a very unpleasant nuke thrown out by Zeromus, just because, like we said, Zeromus can be a very unpleasant boss, and while it felt like this might be a fairly sure thing coming up here, it doesn't take a whole lot for Zeromus to throw a wrench in your plans and have things go a little sideways. But we're back to darting Excals at Zeromus, and it's feeling like Commander's recovered nicely.
Yep, and we're getting more spells getting bounced around. Kane can happily hold on to the Star Veil, and we'll be seeing more spells going in. Hopefully, we'll be seeing this Flameless get the crack, crackle, boom short.
Well, Edge has run out of darts. I suspect he's got something nice for Bacchus Wine heading his way.
When in doubt, drink the box wine and get into a rage. And there's the boom, there's the crackle. Floydmas is down. Get your GGs in chat for Commander Leonhart, and we'll see about if he will be joining us for an interview.
Yep, Commander Leonhart finishing second tonight at the time of 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 11 seconds. GGs to him, and hopefully we'll hear from him soon. And speaking of hearing from him soon, we are joined by Commander Leonhart. GGs, sir.
Just a second. All right, that'll work.
We're hearing you just fine, sir. So, Commander, tell us about about the run and how you felt about how things went.
I felt very good about the run until I was walking down to the Murasame altar and I saw Slippery is typing, and I'm like, wow, this is not going as well as I thought it was.
It was actually I don't know if you had a chance to talk with Slippery. You were very neck and neck a lot of this race.
I haven't talked to Slippery at all. Don't know a thing about what he did to run through it.
Well, to be honest, both of you, it was interesting because I think the major path of divergence happened in the overworld, and you actually both came back together on the hook route, not too far apart from each other. You just both took very different paths to get to various checks. And I was going to kind of ask you about your routing. I think it was, for you, it was a huge priority to get to Ordeals early. What were you thinking about that made you look at that? And particularly after you did Ordeals, were you at all tempted to fade Fabul?
I've always done Ordeals first. Like, there's been one Blue Moon practice I didn't, just because the party was so terrible. And the gear was so terrible that I honestly did not think I could take Ordeals at the opening. But other than that, I've always done Ordeals first. It's got 3 bosses, it's got a key item, and it's where I find my last character. I like getting all of my characters first so that I know who I'm keeping, what inventory I'm selling. If I can store someone in Mysidia, to be an anchor at the end so that I don't have to worry about keeping someone down during the siege. I've always liked getting all the characters first, and then at that point, with the kind of natural routing, the way the characters are laid out, it ends on Ordeals. So if I can take it then, I'd rather do it then and not come back. As for Fabul, no, I didn't want to fade Fabul. It's a main check and it's a boss. And, you know, I'm interested in main checks until I can get down to like at least 3 bosses I can't see. Or only 2 bosses to go, something like that. Until then, I want to keep checking main checks, trying to find, I mean, heck, Darkness was still out there. Darkness could have been at Fabul.
Well, speaking of interesting checks, were you at all tempted to take a look at that officer down in the Fey March? Because
Yeah.
you had found coffins. The option was there. It wasn't going to be a terribly long fight, but then again, it's not K-Main.
True. I mean, I could have tagged it. Might have had Hanzo. But if it turns out that it had... What was I missing? Oh, dang it. I meant to keep that shut off.
I think
if it turns out it had Harper package and that's where Slippery's extra boss was, so be it.
It did not. We actually do not know where on Earth the last boss was hiding. Because both you took the same groups of bosses.
But no, not really. I had enough other things to do.
So the other question I'd ask is, how did you feel about the number of darts the game kept trying to give to you? Because it seemed like you couldn't walk anywhere without tripping over a Excalibur or even a crystal sword.
Given that Edge was rocking full moons and long, I was appreciative. It's like, thank you. I'm not feeling so bad about Edge's lack of Hanzo. I'm not feeling so bad that I skipped Eplin Castle now.
Yeah, and he, I saw that most of your Z fight had a lot of Edge playing World of Darts.
Yeah, it's good times. I tried to cut it off at 45 and not tip, but I miscounted. It's all right. The party had enough power that it didn't matter.
Well, I had one other question, but I'd been talking for a bit, so I was going to give Bad Karma an opportunity to if he had anything he wanted to ask you before I put my next one to you.
No, you've covered everything. Like I said, it's always a pleasure to watch you run races, Commander. And this one was no exception. It was really well done.
Well, and the other question I had 2 questions for you, Commander. I was going to see, this is unfortunately the end of Waning bracket for you, but what do you have planned next?
Jeez. Some comms probably, /tracking. Maybe Oscar will teach me how to restream. Maybe we'll find time for that.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up a little community club out there called the 99%ers that, despite ZZ5 going on, has remained active.
I mean, yeah, I am running that. That was going to happen regardless. But that's ending... I called the last week for that, last week of September. So I'll keep running that. I'll look around, see what other people are doing off-season wise.
Well, and I will
There's an
encourage...
odd little game called Plate Up that I've gotten addicted to recently.
I have actually watched you play that, and it's quite entertaining. I will say, for any of those of you out there who are interested in free enterprise, first of all, join our Discord, meet all these nice people, get to hang out with them, get to learn from them, and actually, if you'd like to come race with us, there are great opportunities. The club that Commander Leonhart runs is a fantastic one to go play around in, and I'd highly encourage you to take a look around.
You run a good one yourself, Film Friends. It's also good times.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
All free enterprise is good times.
Indeed.
That is also true. Well, Commander, do you have any final thoughts for us tonight?
Congratulations, Slippery. And best of luck in the rest of the Waning bracket. Knock 'em dead. Potato, thank you for the tracking. Scala Kitty, thank you for the restream. Bad Karma and Tall Grant, thanks for the comms. I'm going to enjoy going back and listening to it and seeing how it all went down.
Well, GG's, and thank you for giving us a very entertaining race tonight, Commander. It's always fun to watch you.
Thank you.
And on that note, Tall Grant, we may be done here with Free Enterprise, but we are not done with Free Enterprise for the evening.
No, there's a very, very, very exciting match going on right now that we are going to take you over to see. It seems that I believe Possum Morpheus and Solaris are squaring off in their second, in their best of 3 match tonight. And so I believe we're going to take you over there. Is that on Free Enterprise 1 or 2?
That is on RPG Limit
RPG
Break.
Limit Break. So we'll be going there shortly. Again, we encourage you to follow again our featured runners. Take a look at the rest of our broadcast team: Bad Karmas, Scala Kitty, and Fried Potato. I am, of course, Tall Grant. Join our Discord. We'd love to see you. We'd love to watch you hang out with us. We'd love to have you race with us. And we hope all of you have a fantastic evening.
Well, I'll see you over at Limit Break. Have a good night.